Godātie kolēģi, es esmu ļoti priecīgs šeit būt šajā konferencē, šajā izstādē. Уважаемые коллеги, очень рад вас приветствовать на прекрасной конференции, приуроченной к замечательной выставке, которой желаю всяческого успеха.
I will take the liberty of speaking Russian. I tried to summarize my pre-presentation and adapt it to the theme of the exhibition. During the centuries, Riga has been the crossroads of trade routes. And enthusiasm for everything French and European art was a uniting factor. We must note that Russia plays a certain role in this uniting factor. And there is an important page that Russia has written in this history. In early 20th century, Moscow was famous with two outstanding collections of modern art. These were collections that walked ahead of their time. These collections were compiled by two outstanding collectionists. Sergei Shukin is one of them. His portrait is on the screen. And Ivana Abramowich Morozow is the other one, and my presentation will focus on him. Their houses, private houses in Moscow, became a mecca of artists. It was written at that time that Moscow is the best place to study modern art, not Paris. The collections of these two people played an enormous role in the birth of Russian avant-garde and in creative work of Latvian artists such as Roman Suta and Aleksandra Boltsova. These two collections were nationalized after the revolution in 1918, and they formed the basis of the first museum of Western modern art. It existed in Moscow for 30 years, from 1918 to 1948, and it was the first such museum in the world. In 1948, this museum, regretfully, was closed on instruction from Joseph Stalin, and the collection was distributed between Hermitage in Leningrad and Pushkin's museum in Moscow. And only a part of this outstanding collection is now available in the museum in Moscow. Let us go back to the personalities of these two collectors. And let us focus on Iván Morozov. Unlike Sergei Shukin, was an extrovert personality. He liked sharing his enthusiasm and his passion with other people, and he liked guiding excursions through his house. Morozov, unlike him, was introvert. He didn't like boasting, and he didn't place his collection on exhibition. His personal museum was very modernly arranged, but it was closed. Only people who knew him personally were allowed into the museum. Before the revolution, there was a huge aura of secrecy around this personality. Even in photographs, there are not even photographs from his collection surviving. Only photographs of two interiors have survived. Morozov was very secretive, and he had a philosophical approach also to his collecting. He was very thorough in his collecting. He educated and trained his personal eye and his personal taste, and he used the knowers of art of that time. Serov, one of the most standing Russian artists, was one of his consultants. He gave Morozov both good and bad pieces of advice. Regretfully, he advised him against buying Edwards Manet paintings. But Sergei Alexandrovich Vinogradov, who is a famous personality in Latvia, this person, Vinogradov, also consulted Morozov before the revolution, and he was personally very close to Morozov. Thanks to Sergei Vinogradov, we know some things about Morozov. After the revolution, when Vinogradov moved to independent Latvia, he worked very actively in Latvia and published some of his recollections about his contacts of Morozov in a newspaper. And now this is a unique piece of evidence about the collector Morozov. And this is a picture of the house of Morozov's home in Princhistinska Street 21. This old Moscow villa was reconstructed by Morozov and adapted to his personal collection. After the revolution, this building housed the State Museum of Modern Western Art and served as a mecca for the world lovers of modern art. Collectors and lovers of art came to Moscow from all over the world. In this building, in 1935, exhibition of Latvian art was hosted. Let us go back to the topic of today's exhibition. Let us address the topic of Provence. In this angle, we viewed Shchukin's and Morozov's, as we look at Shchukin's and Morozov's collection from the angle of Provence, we find out that Provence is one of the basic topics, one of the cornerstones of the two collections. There are many descriptions about the ways both collectors worked, but if we compare the attitude of these two collectors to Provence, we see great differences. Shchukin's collection is very strict, very Nordic, so to say, very emotional, but Morozov's collection of Provence is very southern, very open, very warm. Morozov trained his eyes to the colors of Provence, and he preferred artists who worked in Provence. The entire Morozov's collection is a proof of the development of his personal taste, of his principle of collection. This is a triptych which stood at the entrance of the collection. It was the first work one could see when entering his house. It stood at the main staircase. This work was specially ordered by Morozov to Pierre Bonheur. It was a unique order. Bonheur had never painted so large a painting before. It was only the first commission by Morozov. It was followed by a huge panel. The triptych, some Mediterranean triptych, regretfully was moved to Hermitage, Leningrad. It was no longer available in Moscow. This triptych is now in the Hermitage in St. Petersburg. As one climbed the stairs, there was the atmosphere of a Mediterranean villa, Mediterranean atmosphere. It was a 3D effect even, as one climbed towards the building along the staircase. This is a photograph from 1930s, which shows the place where the main staircase ends, and part of the panel is visible between two Ionic columns. This chef d'oeuvre stands at the first, at its authentic place in this picture. As one walked through the row of rooms, one entered the most sacred room of the collection, room where Paul Cézanne's work were exhibited. Cézanne was Morozov's most favorite artist, and Cézanne was very close to the spirit of Morozov. They never met personally. Morozov started collecting when Cézanne died, but their personalities perfectly matched. Their unhurried style were in complete harmony with each other. Cézanne's unhurried style was in harmony with Morozov's thorough style of collection. Morozov bought 18 pictures by Cézanne. This picture was made after the revolution, when Morozov had already left Russia, and when he died. This picture was made in 1923, when this building was already part of the Museum of Modern Western Art. It is believed that the original sequence of pictures is maintained in this photograph, that the pictures stand as they stood during Morozov's time. The majority of works in this collection were painted in Provence, near Aix, where Cézanne was born. I would like to draw your attention to one particular Cézanne's painting. This painting has a tragic destiny. In 1923, it was sold by the Soviet government to American collector Stephen Clark, and now it is in Metropolitan Museum in USA. Iván Morozov was not indifferent towards south of France and towards south of France painters, and there are many proofs to that. Morozov created a history that brought together several artists who painted in south of France, especially Vincent van Gogh and Gauguin. Morozov has two paintings by these two painters that were made simultaneously, as they both worked together. It is a painting, Café in Arles, and Vincent van Gogh's Night Café at Arles. These two paintings are part of Morozov's collection, and these two paintings created a separate group in this collection. This interpretation of the theme of a café in Arles is an interpretation by two outstanding French painters. Morozov found these two paintings in different places. One painting was bought in Paris, another in an exhibition in Moscow. And Morozov took into account the internal dialogue between these two pictures as he bought them. Regretfully, this group was separated. These two pictures hang side by side for about 20 years, and now they are separated forever. Because Gauguin's painting Café in Arles is still in Pushkin's museum in Moscow, but Night Café by Van Gogh was sold by the Soviet government in 1930s, and now it stands in a museum in New Haven near Yale University, a very modest museum in Yale. And let's turn to the three paintings that our museum lent to the exhibition, to the current exhibition in Riga. Paul Signac was one of the most thorough lovers of south of France. Our museum lent painting Charm of Provence. Paul Signac is shown in this painting. Paul Signac lived more than 20 years in south of France, and it was in this place where the transfer between his divisionist style to more emotional style took place. This is a place where he started painting in a more uplifting manner, in a more easy manner, less formal manner. Painting Spring in Provence or Hot was painting at the time when Signac enjoyed the peak of his love with Provence. It was painted in Saint-Tropez, where he lived, although it is a rather modest etude showing a small hut under the sun at the time of bloom. This etude may be called a true artistic formula of France.
I would also like to say that this painting has a very curious story behind it, and you can't see it here, but there is on the other side, and I'm showing the other side where the hut, the title "The Hut" is written by the hand of the artist. In the spring of 1926, so 3 years after this painting was painted, Iván Morozov, when he visited the Society of Independent Artists exhibition in Paris, was interested in several works of art, and especially in this Spring in Provence by Signac. And he acquired the right to purchase it from the Society of Independent Artists, send them the invoice, and they send him the invoice, and you see that the work is mentioned here as well. Louis Vuitton is another artist Morozov liked very much, and I would like to say that Morozov really was ahead of his time, together with Shukin, of course. Morozov especially was able to see this group of artists, the meaning of which the French people understood only when they finished to exist. I'm speaking about Fauvists, and Morozov was the first collector in the world who collected a very best collection of Fauvists. The birth of Fauvists is related to the south of France, so it's very much related to the topic of the exhibition. And Louis Vuitton is usually not included into Fauvists, Frigen and others, but Vuitton is a little older than they. And actually he ran Fauvists in his work, by his emotionalism, by his freedom in dealing with the light and composition, and he is a forerunner and a groundbreaker for Fauvists. 1907 this work is not from Morozov's collection, but it shows his manner, Valtā's manner. For Morozov, Valtā was one of the most important painters. Morozov purchased 9 paintings by Valtā. Valtā was very important in his collection, as important as Cézanne or Bonnard or Maurice Denis. We can really say that Valtā is very important for Morozov. A very rare and very illustrative archive document from the exhibition of Spring Salon in the end of the century. These lists were easy to be held in hand, and he was holding them. And these have also Morozov's inscriptions, and they are now held in Puškina Museum. And Morozov was giving the marks to the artists on the margins, and Morozov was not a very outspoken person himself, and that's why these marks and notes were very brief as well. And usually it was not bad. I have to wait and to see. He was very cautious in taking decisions, but for Valtā there is an exception. For Valtā he wrote very good. By 2 landscape paintings he wrote that he purchased them, and one of them was marked by a heart, a specific symbol, because he liked this very much and he never did it again. He was very reserved as a person. So his heart melted when he saw Valtā's painting, and this is the painting seen in Antheor Bay, and this is see at Antheor. This is the full name of the full title of this work, and this is also exhibited here in Riga today. This is one of the most the best landscapes by Valtā. He was living in this small place on the south of France, in Antheor. He was really painting the pier and the seaside very often. The cliffs are a bit purple under the setting sun's rays, and there are some small deficiency which was very much attracting to Valtā. So there is a contrast between trees and the shadows and also the coast and the sea. This is almost a sculptural painting. It's almost sculptured by brush, and this is a very emotional handwriting of Valtā, and you really see it here. Valtā is a link between Van Gogh and Fauvism of the 20th century, Impressionism and Fauvism. In the technology of, if we can say it so, we see as Valtā, how Valtā wants to continue the line started by Van Gogh. Van Gogh was always very often using a very rough base, and he wanted to be very authentic in his painting, so that the prefabricated elements are not interfering with it. And Van Gogh, when he was writing in Arles, was painting on such bases. And the foundation is also made by the artist himself. The foundation is very thick, and it really makes a very thick base for the painting. And thereby, Morozov indicated for himself in the spring salon, but was not able to purchase it at once because rights to this painting was held by Ambroise Vollard, a promoter of contemporary art in Paris, and Morozov was having a personal relation with Vollard, and this is the invoice written by Vollard to Morozov when Morozov came to his gallery and asked for the right to purchase these works. The painting by Valta was very expensive for Morozov because Vollard felt the interest of collectors, because usually Valta's work was a little bit cheaper than 1,000 francs, but and you see that one of the paintings is cost only 600, although this painting is today more popular than Valta's painting. The painting by Valta for the collector was very important. At the beginning of the 1910s, the collection, the album was formed where the masterpieces were pictured, were photographed, and you see that Valta's picture is on this first pages on this representation album. So where was the place of this painting in Morozov's collection? We were detectives to find it, and the results were very interesting because we didn't find the collection, the place of this painting in his collection was not easy because he was not allowing photographers into his house. This hall was photographed with Denise, the story of Psyche, but we don't know what was located here in this hall. A music hall held Denise paintings, but we didn't know about this hall. But we found the watercolor, a quite big watercolor from 1921 by Zhuravlyov, by Vasily Zhuravlyov. And this watercolor shows the interior of this hall and also the location of the paintings. And Ivan Morozov was the author of the locations, of the design of how the paintings were located, because during the revolution these masterpieces were hidden in the basement of the house, in the closed vault. And when the shooting was over, when the life was restarting in the city, again renewed the way it was originally designed. And we see that the favorite masterpieces from Nabi's group, by Maurice Denis, his story of Psyche, and also 3 panels, and also Fauvist's paintings, Albert Marquet, the series by Marquet, and also Louis Valta's paintings. The whole cycle, which create freeze in this interior. And you see the enter bay here, which has a key place here, which somehow finishes the composition. This was the heart of Morozov's collections, and the painting which had specific role here. This is the third hero of our presentation. This is Ton Fries. We also presented this painting to Riga's exhibition. We can go to and speak about Fries via Maurice Denis, because Maurice Denis had a huge commission from Morozov. He even came to Moscow in 1909. He was a guest in Morozov's house and had very personal links with Morozov. Ton Fries is photographed here when he was painting interior in Cassis, which is presented here in Riga. The Denis family is linked to purchasing this picture, this painting. Morozov was not trusting anybody else, but he really made an exception for Maurice Denis' family, and he trusted not him, but his wife, Marta. She visited the gallery of Jean Drouet in Paris in 1909, where she chose a painting for his collection. Marta was very close to Maurice Denis. She was really close to also in his creative work to Denis, and she chose Cassis trees for Morozov's collection. This painting relates to the period when there was a short-term joint work of three painters, Fries, Braque, and another painter who is also presented here at the exhibition. They were working on, which is Rôle des Filles, and they worked in a stack on the Mediterranean coast, and actually it is the same name, Cassis, only pronounced in Provence dialect. All three painters came together in 1907, because in 1906 Cézanne's work and life ended, and his work was very important for the young ones.
And they started to adopt this structurism, which was very important for Cézanne. Here we see Cézanne's typical ochre, greenish, and Cézanne's bluish. Cézanne's geometrical style was interpreted in a Fauvistic style by these three artists. And Cézanne's system acquired Fauvism energy. It seemed as if Cézanne's system was tested for endurance by this emotional, especially by Fries, emotional Fauvist artist. This painting was painted in the summer of 1909, most likely, and this painting has a secret on the other side. There is a small Mediterranean etude on the other side of the painting, and this is a unique case when one painting contains two views. On the front side, the painter is looking at the coast, at the rocky coast of Cassis, and on the other side, it seems as if the painter has turned into the other direction and turned towards the sea. At the sea where a sailboat stands at the moment. Fries's work most likely attracted Morozov with the fact that it is close to Cézanne. Cézanne, as I said, was one of the most beloved artists, if not the most beloved artist by Morozov, and this painting had to take place in the presentation album of the collection that Morozov elaborated in the early 20th century. This is a reproduction of the painting that is given honorary place in the album. This painting by of Cassis is one of the few paintings in our collection that can still contains all the stamps, all the documents, all the small papers that were attached to it that allows following us through the way, through the path of this painting on its way from Marseilles to Russia. Marseilles was the most important transport juncture in south of France. 19th of October 1900, when the creative season was closed, Friés shipped a group of paintings to Paris by railway. 19th of October, when the painting was received in Paris. And this paper shows the date when the painting became part of Drouet's gallery, was moved to Drouet Gallery, and was recorded in the archives, registered in the archives of the gallery. And this paper was attached to the painting when Maris's Denay wife bought this painting in the gallery and shipped it by international transportation to Moscow, to Morozov's collection in Moscow. And I had to mention that Friés had a very particular attitude towards the painting's frames. He chose the frames himself, and he preferred older style paintings, not modern style painting frames. And this is the original frame of the painting chosen by Friés himself. The frame is most likely 100 years older than the painting. It is a French Empire style, early 19th century, palely gilt. And this frame interacts with the bright colors of the painting itself. And briefly, at the conclusion of my presentation, I would like to speak about the interpretation and the place of the exhibition of the painting that we chose for the exhibition in Moscow. These paintings were always on permanent exhibition of the museum, followed through in the footsteps of the legacy of the collectors. Regretfully, the museum didn't have very large space. This was a very intensive artistic space. Paintings were located next to each other, and somewhere even in the corridor. Here we see the painting Spring in Provence, located in a very outstanding place. As concerns the frame, we see that the frame is different. It is a white frame, most likely chosen by the artist, but I can't find any traces of the frame now. Probably it is lost, but probably, hopefully, one day it will be found somewhere. This is a picture of the Hall of Forest, particularly Voltaire's paintings bought in 1928. Paintings, this is the only group that is still intact as a group. This is a photograph of Friés's work. Most likely you will not find it immediately, but it stands here on the right. And it stands together with Picasso's work. Same as in the exhibition here in Riga, but this painting is from a different period of the artist. Friese's work of 1920s, 1930s were placed in different groups. At one point, Cézanne's style was accentuated, was underlined in his work. That was discovered by Picasso and Braque, and most likely it was the reason why the painting was located next to Picasso. And more organic, more suitable place for the painting is among Fauvist painters. Marquez Lemming purchased for 600 francs together with Voltaire's painting. Is there? Museum of New Western Art in Moscow was one of the few, if not the only place in the world where Fauvists could be placed in 3 rows, creating a very intense artistic space. And Frier is placed in the center in this group. And this photograph was taken before the war. When the Second World War started, the last photograph was taken of the museum, and here we see that Frier again stands against Fauvists, and this was the last spot where this painter was represented in the museum. The painting never came back to the museum because the museum was closed. A collector also had a very tragic destiny. Morozov, although he returned his paintings to his own collection and placed the paintings on the wall of the new museum, he personally was appointed only the supervisor of the collection. And he was ordered to guide the excursions through his very intimate space of the collection. Morozov couldn't stand it, and he left Moscow in 1919, and he reached France, but the emotional trauma was too heavy and he couldn't survive it. He died prematurely in Karlsbaden, in modern Karlovy Vary, where he was undergoing treatment. 2 years later, he died. 2 years after leaving Moscow, he died. In the paintings that are represented in Riga, we reconstructed the Provence style of the painter.